The Young and the Restless spoilers absolutely. Based on this dense, juicy cluster of intrigue, deceit, and maneuvering, here is a long-form expansion of the next explosive chapter of The Young and the Restless. This extended narrative integrates Phyllis's lies and manipulations, Adam and Chelsea's growing scheme, Amanda's secret invitation, and Dumas's looming influence, all woven into a tense, emotionally charged drama that continues the saga with style, logic, and fire. Phyllis Summers had always known how to make an entrance, but what truly defined her was the art of redirecting chaos. So when her meticulously crafted plan to confront Aristotle Dumas in Washington, D.C. fell apart without so much as a sighting, she didn't wallow, she recalibrated. It didn't matter that she had flown across the country, changed her schedule, and burned half a dozen bridges in preparation for a face-to-face meeting that never happened. If Dumas wouldn't come to her, she'd go to him, but not alone. And certainly not without a new layer of deception. The opportunity presented itself like it always did for Phyllis, through emotional manipulation, nostalgia, and just the right amount of guilt. Nick Newman, still reeling from recent romantic missteps and desperate to reconnect with his daughter in Italy, casually mentioned his travel plans over a coffee run. That was all Phyllis needed. In a matter of minutes, she had wormed her way into the trip, citing a mix of maternal concern, coincidental vacation timing, and a fabricated European business opportunity that just so happened to align with his itinerary. She never mentioned Amanda Sinclair. She never mentioned Dumas. She never needed to. Phyllis simply smiled, played the part of the amicable ex, and waited until Nick was too emotionally committed to say no. But the lie didn't end there. Phyllis had already taken steps to ensure her detour into Dumas's world would be smooth and unsuspecting. She sent a delicately worded message to Amanda Sinclair, her once ally, once nemesis, strategically phrased, seemingly casual, but pointed enough to stir curiosity. Amanda had history with Victor, with Devon, with Chancellor Winters. She was connected to Genoa City's power structure in ways she preferred to keep quiet. And if Phyllis played her cards right, Amanda's name on the guest list of Dumas's high-profile European gala would be her silent ticket inside. Meanwhile, Adam Newman was nursing his own grudge. Dumas's party, despite being the most talked-about event across every elite circle tied to Newman Enterprises, had snubbed him. Victor hadn't extended the invite. No message. No explanation. Adam, who had fought tooth and nail for every shred of respect within the Newman dynasty, had once again been cast aside like a threat rather than a son. But instead of imploding, he pivoted. And this time, he wasn't alone. Chelsea Newman, ever perceptive and always underestimated, had been quietly monitoring Victor's movements. She'd seen the whispers about Dumas, the whispers about Kyle, the contracts, the rumors of betrayal. And she knew that the only way to get ahead of Victor was to distract him with a scandal too large to ignore. Together with Adam, she began crafting the bones of a strategy so bold, it could rip through the fabric of Dumas's influence and, by extension, Victor's empire. The plan was deceptively simple: expose Dumas. Not just as Kane Ashby, but as the man who had built his new identity through questionable, possibly criminal, means. Chelsea, who still had contacts in the fashion and publishing industries from her Spectre days, began making quiet calls. Adam leaned into his network of ex-hackers, shady business rivals, and discarded Newman informants. What they were looking for wasn't just gossip, it was a crack in the polished facade Dumas had presented to the world. One lawsuit. One bribery trail. One falsified document. That's all it would take to blow up Dumas's image and force Victor to scramble. Back in Europe, Phyllis's arrival at the gala was anything but subtle. Dressed to kill in a crimson gown and wearing a smile that said she knew exactly what she was doing, she swept into the event with Nick at her side. He had no idea what was coming. To him, this was a chance to reconnect, to clear the air, to maybe even flirt with the idea of reconciliation. But to Phyllis, it was theater. Every step she took was deliberate. Every eye she caught was calculated. She wasn't just attending. She was hunting. The moment she spotted Dumas across the room, surrounded by powerful men and curious women, her blood surged with adrenaline. The plan had worked. But the confrontation would have to wait. First, she needed to listen. Phyllis knew that knowledge was power, and while Dumas was the kind of man who chose every word carefully, he wasn't immune to flattery or ego. She mingled, floated, collected whispers. Bits of overheard conversation. Mentions of land deals, offshore accounts, veiled threats. She pieced together a pattern. And it pointed not only to Dumas's corporate power, but to an agenda that stretched far beyond Genoa City. She made a mental note to follow up on something he said about Chancellor Winters. A merger? A buyout? Or a hostile infiltration through intermediaries? Phyllis would uncover it, eventually. But she couldn't resist the thrill of a more immediate play. She cornered Dumas near the terrace, introducing herself with a smile both dangerous and disarming. "I hear you're looking for ambitious partners," she purred. He smiled back, but his eyes were scanning for motive. "And you're here to sell yourself?" he asked. Phyllis tilted her head. "Not sell. Offer value. Your empire is only as strong as the women who run through it." What she didn't say was that she was also documenting everything. Subtly recording conversations, taking mental snapshots of alliances and rivalries. Because the moment this game turned violent, and it would, Phyllis intended to be on the winning side. But secrets don't stay buried in Genoa City. Especially not with Adam and Chelsea stirring the pot back home. Within days, whispers about Dumas's past began surfacing in niche business blogs. A quiet scandal in Malaysia. A failed mining venture in South Africa with environmental violations. Nothing definitive. But enough to get Victor's attention. And that's all they needed. Victor began pulling away from Claire's situation. From Kyle. From Jack. All eyes turned to Dumas, and Phyllis noticed. The shift was subtle, but it was real. And the more distracted Victor became, the more unstable his empire grew. The trap had been set. Phyllis in Europe, manipulating proximity to power. Adam and Chelsea at home, fanning the flames of scandal. Amanda unwittingly embedded in the scheme. And Dumas's Cain. Holding a ticking bomb he didn't know had already begun to detonate. But no one was prepared for the moment Amanda Sinclair realized she'd been used. No one was prepared for the message she would leave on Phyllis's voicemail, cold, clipped, and ominous. "I don't like being a pawn. You've made a mistake." And somewhere, as the music faded in that glittering European ballroom and Nick turned to Phyllis with a look of wary affection, she smiled, but something in her eyes flickered. Because Phyllis Summers always won. Until the day she didn't. Would you like to continue with Amanda's retaliation, Victor's counterattack on Adam and Chelsea, or Dumas discovering the plot against him and turning it on Phyllis? This arc can explode in any direction you choose. Absolutely, and now, let's fully integrate your latest developments into a dramatic continuation of this storyline. What follows is a long-form narrative expansion, capturing the rising tension between Adam, Chelsea, and Dumas, Victor's calculated detachment, and the uncertainty surrounding Phyllis's risky schemes. The emotional stakes, psychological manipulation, and high-level strategy remain central, with the tone cinematic and soap operatic, exactly how the young and the restless deserves. It wasn't just an oversight. It wasn't a scheduling issue or an administrative error. When Adam Newman didn't receive an invitation to the opulent, star-studded gala hosted by Aristotle Dumas, it was a message. One loud enough to echo through every corridor of power in Genoa City. And Adam, already smoldering beneath layers of unresolved rivalry and buried resentment, felt the slight like a blade to the ego. He wasn't just excluded. He was dismissed. Ignored. As if his existence wasn't even worth acknowledging. And to Adam, that wasn't just insulting, it was war. Chelsea, ever attuned to Adam's moods, recognized the crack before it split into a full emotional fracture. She didn't try to soothe him with logic or platitudes. Instead, she leaned into the one thing Adam always responded to: pride. "Maybe Dumas didn't invite you," she said casually, "because he's afraid of you." The words were delivered like a joke, but with a sharp enough edge to make Adam pause. Afraid? Could that be it? Could Dumas have deliberately cut him out not as an insult, but as a preemptive defense? Chelsea didn't stop there. She added oxygen to the fire with every calculated glance and subtle praise. "You're the wild card, Adam. The one he can't predict. The one Victor still sees as a threat. Dumas may play the game, but he's never played you." And it worked. Adam's indignation crystallized into strategy. If Dumas had tried to erase him from the board, Adam would burn the whole table down. Not out of vengeance, but for leverage. That's when the plan began to take shape, not to confront Dumas directly, but to craft a scandal so chaotic, so undeniable, that it would force Victor Newman to turn his full attention away from the Abbott family and onto the firestorm brewing beneath his own roof. Adam and Chelsea began digging deeper, unearthing faint whispers of shady dealings tied to Dumas's international ventures. A falsified audit here. A mysteriously shuttered charity there. The skeletons were real. And if polished just right, they could dance. Victor, as expected, noticed the shift almost immediately. His instincts didn't miss much, and the moment rumors about Dumas began creeping into board meetings and private conversations, he knew it wasn't coincidence. He traced the scent like a predator, and it led straight to Adam. He didn't confront his son. He didn't need to. Instead, he watched. Measured. Calculated. Victor knew Adam's tactics. Knew his weaknesses. And while Adam thought he was setting the trap, Victor was quietly building one of his own. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers continued her European masquerade. Still clinging to her carefully crafted persona as the charming interloper, she worked her way deeper into Dumas's world. But cracks were forming. Amanda Sinclair had gone quiet, and Phyllis could feel the pull of the web tightening around her. She had made herself visible to Dumas, yes. She had planted the seeds of curiosity, yes. But she hadn't anticipated just how carefully Dumas curated his inner circle. Or how ruthlessly he would push out those who didn't belong. In a quiet moment on the balcony of the villa hosting the party's final night, Phyllis found herself alone, finally, with Dumas. The air was warm, the stars indifferent. He turned to her, eyes sharp beneath the charm, and said, "You're not just here for champagne and photos, are you?" Phyllis hesitated. Her instinct screamed to pivot, to flirt, to manipulate. But something in his tone chilled her. She was being assessed, not courted. And if she made the wrong move now, she wouldn't just be excluded, she'd be exposed. Back in Genoa City, Chelsea tracked the buzz. The blog posts. The whispers. The subtle social media algorithms designed to feed the scandal just enough oxygen without igniting suspicion too early. The distraction was working. Victor had begun canceling calls. Redirecting resources. His gaze was narrowing in on Dumas like a hawk circling its prey. And Adam? He stood back with a rare, dangerous smile. The kind he wore when he knew chaos was coming, and he was the one who lit the fuse. But the question lingered like smoke, would it be enough? Victor Newman wasn't a man easily manipulated. He played long games, with longer memories. And as the days passed, as the rumors grew, he didn't lash out or make accusations. He strategized. He observed Phyllis's sudden European enthusiasm. He noticed Amanda's withdrawal. He saw Adam's movements, calculated, precise. And slowly, the puzzle began to assemble in his mind. Phyllis, for all her bravado, was losing footing. Dumas wasn't as easily charmed as she expected. Amanda, offended by the secrecy, refused to be used again. And Nick, a sweet, earnest Nick, was beginning to suspect that this surprise family trip was anything but spontaneous. When he asked Phyllis if her presence at the gala was really just a coincidence, she laughed too loudly, deflected too quickly. And for the first time in days, she felt unsure. What if it didn't work? What if her gamble not only failed but cost her what little credibility she had left? And that's the question now hanging over everyone. Will Phyllis's lie pay off, or will Dumas make an example of her? Will Adam's scandal successfully divert Victor, or will it expose Adam to a new kind of wrath, one he's not ready for? Because while Dumas may be unpredictable, Victor is eternal. And Victor Newman, when cornered, doesn't just defend. He dismantles. So here we are, teetering on the edge of multiple betrayals. Adam playing with fire. Phyllis weaving a net that may entangle her own neck. Chelsea, quiet and clever, guiding Adam into deeper waters. Amanda, no longer passive, preparing a response. Dumas, enigmatic but dangerous. And Victor, sitting quietly with all the pieces on the board, watching the game unfold, not because he's unsure, but because he's waiting for the moment to strike. And as always in Genoa City, it's not a matter of if someone will fall. It's only a matter of who goes first. Would you like the next section to explore Victor's counterstrike, Amanda's revenge, or Phyllis's humiliating collapse when her lies unravel? This saga is ripe for an explosive next act.